And I'm joined by Ben Akers of Talk Club. How you doing, Ben?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm a good eight, if I'm honest. The sun's shining. I'm feeling the world is on my side at the moment.
It's good to hear, mate. Obviously, the reasons I wanted to get you on because this will be aired as part of the 24-hour show we're doing as part of Mental Health Awareness Week, and one of the reasons, alongside just wanting to promote, breaking down the taboo of talking about men's mental health and those conversations, which is obviously a lot of what Talk Club is about, is also because I lost my friend Gary to suicide in 2017, and I know you obviously lost your friend Steve, and that was the sort of starting point for this journey with Talk Club and with the documentary and everything, etc. So obviously what you guys do really did sing to me, and I really really appreciate your time first off and foremost, mate.
I'm so thank you, and I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you, appreciate that. As we're saying, we're talking about the documentary there. How was that for you making that documentary? Before we get talking about Talk Club itself, that's got to have been a strange process. I watched it last night, and it's a very powerful watch. It's a very honest watch, and everyone who's you've got Steve's parents obviously that you're talking to there, and everyone else, and it's that thing where it's framed with other people and their experiences, and that blokes can have a five-a-side and a kickabout, and then be have those more talk about kicks about positive talks, which is great. But how was it for you when you were? How were you out of 10 when you were? Uh,
It was a really interesting journey for me. So I lost Steve. We lost Steve 10 years ago, the end of May, and that's one of the reasons why Talk Club takes over the whole of May. We sort of call it Mental Fitness Month, is like what we've done, because we've lost too many men, too many friends in May. Um, it was a really I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to sort of like I didn't mean to start Talk Club. I didn't mean to sort of to meet all these amazing people. I didn't really know what I was doing, if I'm honest. I we lost Steve in 2014, and I spent sort of 3 years of asking why in therapy and didn't really get any answers. As anyone, as you know, if you've lost someone to suicide, you don't get any answers. Um, and then I was sitting in a hammock in France, probably the first time I switched off in 3 years, and I was reading this article telling me these horrific statistics of at the time suicide was the biggest killer of men under 45. A man dies. Then a man was dying uh, every couple of hours. Then a man, it was 12 men a week, I think, 2 a day, and um, and I was sort of going, this is just horrible, and I was going, well, these Steve wasn't a number, he wasn't a statistic, he was a person, and and I was I was trying to deal with like reading this thing, and then I carried on reading this Sunday Sup, and I wish I could find it now because I talk about this quite a lot. And I read that in the same magazine that men of our age watch sport and documentaries. That's what we watch. And I just sat there and went, I'm going to make a documentary. And my background is I grew up in advertising, so I was a problem solver. I was selling crap to people they didn't need, for writing TV ads and sort of radio ads and press ads and stuff like that. So problem solving was sort of like my thing of doing that. And then I apologise for that. I'm going to turn that off. Um, and I um, so I decided I was going to make a film, and I said to my wife, I want to make a film, and she said, no, you're not. I don't want you to do that. And I sort of said, I think I'll rephrase that. I think I need to make a film. I need to do something with this grief. I need to be able to sort of try and stop the next Steve, try and stop the next Steve's family and friends feeling the way that we do. So, so I asked Steve's family. I remember ringing Les, Steve's dad. I asked his cousins and I asked his sister, but I knew that the card conversation would be ringing Les, who's been like a second father to me growing up, and because they're very private people, they're very quiet people. They don't want to do this, and it'd been 4 years, 3.5 years since he went when I was doing this. Um, And he said, like, Ben, we trust you. If you want to, if you feel that it will help one person, then we're behind you. And I didn't know what it was going to be. I sort of like I expected it to be like a little 15-minute film about Steve and these stats. And then as I put the crowdfunder out, all these amazing people started coming forward and like you should talk to this person, you should talk to that person. And I suddenly realised that there's so many great people doing such great work out there that no one knows about. Like the there's so much out there. There is actually so much help out there. We just don't know where to look. We're overwhelmed with where to look. So putting it into the film, luckily my third child was born in the middle of filming. So my wife, who's is a TV producer, she was busy, so then suddenly I was let loose as the writer, director, and producer of this thing, to sort of control the timing and the money, which you should never let someone do that. And I ended up with 50 hours of footage up and
Wow.
down the country, and I'm never going to make anything more than 90. So condensing it all down, talking to these amazing people Danny Sculthorpe was a real light bulb moment for me, because when Danny said to me, he talked about his ex England. Everyone, I don't know if you know this guys, but he's sort of this guy, but he's ex England rugby league captain. He sort of his life was destroyed by an injury, and then he wanted to take his own life. But then he introduced me to this concept of mental fitness. And as a communicator, as an advertising man, when someone says mental fitness, I'm sort of like, I was interested in that because that's language. You say mental health, people automatically go to negatives.
Mm.
And I even do that in the round table, talk to my section in the film called the round table with my best friends. And they all talk about the negative of what mental health is. But as everyone should know, we've all got mental health. We've all got physical health. Like you can have mental bad health, you can have mental good health. It's sort of like but when you reframe it as mental fitness, suddenly it's something interesting for blokes, because fitness can go up and down,
Yeah.
and you can be mentally fit. So suddenly I was like, there's something really interesting in that. And so I had this sort of in the back of my head, and then we did the screening. We did a couple of pre-screenings, which is sort of like anyone who makes films or does music or whatever. You share it with people, and they tell you it's rubbish or not. And this one bloke came up to me after one of the pre-screenings and went, "Now what?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, you've opened me up. Now where do I go?" I was like, "Okay, well maybe I need to do something." So with people from the film, we there were six of us founded Talk Club, and on the premiere of the film, we launched this idea of a talking community for men. What I believed if we existed 5 years before he died would have helped Steve. And it was all based around mental fitness. And then Blue O'Connor, one of the other founders, he sort of said to me, I do this thing with youth mentoring where I ask them how they are out of 10. And I was like, that's brilliant. Let's use
I
that.
love them.
Like,
I love them.
because it's been around for years. We didn't invent it, but we're sort of like, I'm going, okay, you need something, because everyone talks about, go and talk to your mate. And you go, I don't know how to talk to my mate. Like, it's a foreign, you might as well say, go and speak Latin, go and speak. I've never spoken this foreign language called feelings before. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
So we sort of went, okay, let's base everything around the idea of mental fitness. And the way that you get there is you ask this honest question, or Gav, my co-founder and co-CEO, is a therapist, he sort of calls it the truth question. Once you get them to sort of say how you are out of 10, 10 being the best, being top of the world, one being rock bottom, then you've got a scale. You know where you are if you're a 4, or you're a 5, or you're a 6, or you're a 7, or you're an 8, and you want to stay at an 8, or you want to stay where you are. So that was the basis of Talk Club, and then fast forward, we launched it in 2019 as a CIC, one talking group in the back of the Bristol Beer Factory's tap room. We now 102 clubs around the world. We got charity status in 2021. We've had amazing people like Liam Gallagher dedicate one of his songs, and his music video is a 4-minute advert
Powerful.
for
That
yeah.
video is powerful. It's You
Yeah,
said, yeah, but I'd heard the video, but I heard the video. I'd heard the song, but I hadn't seen the video before you sent those links over. And yeah, that video is powerful as hell. The guy would like, dragging his own weight around, and it's just like, what,
yeah.
that's such a simplistic pictorial thing, but it is exactly how you feel when you're in those moments.
And it's amazing to sort of like have someone of his stature and his gravitas to sort of support us. And then when we just finished that, we had Tyson Fury's team reach out to us and going, "We want to release a single. He wants to record and release Sweet Caroline. He wants to do it for you guys." And I was like, "Okay then." So we're sort of like we're a tiny team, and suddenly we've got sort of like two enormous names, a world champion and a world renowned rock star supporting us. And then we've just gone from strength to strength of that. We've got an alcohol free beer called Clearhead. Um, we've got a coffee, full caffeine with Wogan's. We're working on loads of other projects where we like the whole idea is to be where men are. Men listen to music. Men watch football, watch rugby, play sports. We are where they are. They like men beating the crap out of each other. We as in with Tyson, you sort of like we love pubs. We think pubs are brilliant. All our clubs are in male comfortable spaces. Quite a lot of the time in backs of pubs, but we know about the connection between alcohol and depression. So we can't send mixed messages. And if you can just see behind me, these are our
Oh,
clear. This is a Clearhead. Some of the Clearhead posters.
oh,
So it's
nice.
sort of like, but like this can save a life, and sort of so, and we've been able to employ someone just off the sales of Clearhead with Bristol Beer Factory. So we've got like if you can see here, we've got these all our t-shirts that we
I
work
love
with.
this
We sort of,
t-shirt.
yeah, we've got like
I
on
like the
the
Run
end is
DMC Talk BS3 one. I like that.
talk BS3. That's the one that was just going out. That's to celebrate our birthday. Um, yeah, it's like I like it. I like the film was described by a really kind journalist as a changeomentary, not a documentary, because documentaries document what's going on and quite a lot hold a mirror up to the world and go life's rubbish, and you go life's rubbish. What am I meant to do about it?
Yeah.
But what was described by the film by journalists sort of said it's a film of change, and that's what we're trying to do as a charity. We're not sort of we've had enough of awareness. We think we're pretty aware of bad mental health now. We're trying to change society. We're trying to change the way that we talk to each other. We're trying to change the way that we interact with each other, and trying to save lives by giving men ways to help themselves is basically what it is. So like that talk well like for example we've got groups that are just talk and listen you sit in a circle, 8 to 10 men in a group normally, but you can have one or two, do you know what I mean? And you go through 4 rounds, which is sort of how you are out of 10, and why. Then you look at your gratitude, what you're grateful for in your life. Normally my number will my why number will involve my children, and then my gratitude is my children, and then you look at positives about how you can look after your mental fitness this week, so moving forward, and then you check out number, and that's just it. That's just sort of like just a little talking group, and then we've got on the other one scale we've got talk and exercise groups. So we've got rugby, football, skating, running. So you just do a check in and say how you are at 10, then you play your sport, and then you do your checkout. So it's a really simple, really light touch on mental
Really
health.
did like the sort of you talk and exercise groups sort of cool to me, because I know when I was going through my bad period, one of the things that not got me out of it, but helped me go through that catharticism, kind of getting that energy out, was going back to my martial arts training. That helped
Yeah,
massively. And I know everyone's got their own tools of what works for them and what doesn't. It's a completely personal thing. But when I saw you doing that like an exercise, and even now if I'm getting towards a 3 or a 4, I'll just look at my wife and be like, right, I'm going to the gym. I just need to get it out there, and then I'll come back feeling maybe 6 or 7. And I think it does somewhere like the gym, like sport, whether it be martial arts, football, rugby, whatever. Although you're playing as a team, you're still in your own mindset. You still have that time away from the distractions that you might put inside yourself, and in front of the telly or whatever. And I
It's
think,
so it's so important, and I think what we need to do is we need to respect our minds the way that we've been taught for the past 30, 40, 50 years to respect our bodies, right? Is that we need, everyone knows they need to do exercise, right? Everyone knows that they can't just eat kebabs all the time. Everyone knows that sort of like the whatever you put in, it will affect you. But everyone also knows that to get a six pack takes a lot of commitment, right? And but what we do with our mental health is that we it's the equivalent. We're in a broken fixes society still. It's the equivalent of for me it's the equivalent of waiting for ourselves to have a heart attack before we go for a run, right? We wait for quite a lot of the society's built around waiting for someone. I call it triage, waiting for someone to be on that bridge before you can save them, right? And we shouldn't be on that bridge, right? We need to be getting people 5 years before, 10 years before, when they're kids, to sort of like to respect their mental fitness and to be working to put the energy into looking after their minds, because most of us aren't employed for our physical attributes. Most of us are employed, and our worlds revolve around what goes on between our ears. So we need to sort of like we need to respect it, because once your mind, once you, as you've said, as you know, once you start dropping, everything starts falling. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a mentally fit society, and we're starting with blokes, because 76% of suicides are male. We're here because the current statistics are it's the biggest killer of men under 50. Statistically, the thing most likely to kill me is me. It's nothing else. It's not a car. It's not a knife. It's not cancer. statistically, it's me, right? And I think that's why if I'm brutally honest, in a scary world we're in at the moment, where everyone's worried about the price of living and the cost of living, and all I see on LinkedIn are those green ticks where people are available for work, right? I'm in a growth industry, right? We are growing so fast because the need is there, and with sort of like with support of people like you and helping us get out there, it's sort of, I mean, we hope that we really do. We hope that we can keep growing and keep doing that, but we know we're making a difference. I mean, we do. I've sort of like through the film and through sort of what we've done in the last 3 years as a charity. It's like I've now got hundreds of messages saying I'm only alive because of what TC's doing. So I know, and I've got that personally. I know that I know that there's hundreds of more that will be that won't be that way around.
yeah.
So yeah, it's still hard, if I'm honest. It's still hard to sort of to especially coming up to the 10-year anniversary of him gone.
That's a big marker in the sand, so to speak.
Yeah, but I know that I know that I know I'm doing okay by him. We've got a comedy night actually at the end of the month, and these families coming over to Bristol. They're over in Margate, so they're all coming over to Bristol to see us at Bristol Beer Factory on Sunday the 26th. So if anyone's in Bristol, come along. And then we've got another one on the 19th with an artist called Samo, talking about masculinity and sort of in art, and trans masculinity. He's a trans masculine artist, so it's amazing. But I think that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to educate a lot of people about mental health, about masculinity, about sort of like. But it keeps coming for me. It keeps coming back to how could I have helped Steve if I had the skills that I've now got 15 years ago? Because I know that I couldn't have saved him 10 years ago,
No.
but if Talk Club had existed 15 years ago and someone else had done it, then maybe he still might be with us. So
you talk quite openly in the documentary about sort of what you talk getting towards there, about almost a guilt feeling about, what could I have done to save? And I've certainly felt that with my friend Gary, what could I have done to help him? You know, we look back and although we were a group of lads that do talk, wouldn't brush it off. I do think, you know, were we having the right conversations? Did I tackle it as much as I should? Because there is also that element that you go, okay, well, I don't want to push him too far. I don't want to pry too much. If he's talking about the bits he wants to talk about, then that, you know, that is his business. And I think even simple things of adding out of 10 to how are you? Because every bloke on this planet who is to suffer mental health to whatever degree, when their mate goes, "You're all right, how are you, mate? You're all right," just goes, "Yeah, I'm all right." That's the like knee-jerk response. I'm fine.
Yeah.
But just adding out of 10, suddenly it throws it off of hang on, what? And then trying to think of something. And then, like you say, you've got that marker of, okay, so, you know, why are you a 4? Why are you a 6? Why are you not an 8 or a 9? You know, what's going
Well,
on?
it's so important. We've sort of like it's so important to just be honest with ourselves because how are you? And we get an automatic reaction. How are you? And even with I don't normally let people have sevens, right? Because also not so much them having sevens, it's actually about how quickly they say a seven,
Yeah.
right? Because I go, no. What are you, a 6.9 or 7.1? I just want you to make a decision, right? Are you because seven's normal, right? Unless you're German. One of my mates is German, and I said to him, how are you? He goes, I'm a 5. And I go, oh no, 5. What was wrong? And he's like, nothing's wrong. 5's in the middle. And I was like, okay, of course it is, right? but five in UK society is low. And he's
Yeah.
going, oh, you English are so strange. And I was like, you're right. I don't know
Yeah, we
why.
are, to be
Um,
fair.
uh, but it's sort of like so when someone says a 7, and it's normally about how quickly they say it. Um, but I'll go 7.1 or 6.9, and they'll go 6.9. And this is the most important part. Why? The number itself isn't that important, right? Because everyone's number, my 8 might be your 6, right? You might go like my Gav, my co-CEO, has tens all the time. I sort of like I find a 10 quite guilty. I sort of like I don't sort of like I think in my head I've only really had 3 tens in my life, and even my wedding was only a 9.8. You're sort of like going like the birth of my children, but but I get the spikes of 10. I get that. I get that sort of like I can have a spike of 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
But but it's about the why, because we sort of say one man's 8 is another man's 6. It's sort of it's about the why. It's about starting that conversation. It's not about judgment. It's not about like like the classic case for me is one of my good friends. I've spent years before this trying to eke out what was going on with someone, trying to read between the lines with friends and stuff like that. And one of my friends rang me up and he went, "Benny, I'm a 3." That was his opening line, "Benny, I'm a 3." And suddenly I knew my job as his friend for the next half an hour is to listen.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to solve it. I can't solve it. I'm not a therapist. He doesn't want me to solve it, if I'm honest. He just wants someone to listen to him. And where we got to was sort of was quite a lot of the time is actually about that most of us, just both men and women, we need to be heard, and we're not being heard by society or by real conversations by our friends. And that's what Talk Club allows you to be. It allows you to sit in a room 100%. It's free, it's confidential. You come along and you just sort of you have these very tight 4 rounds where you're only allowed to say at the end of it, "Thank you for sharing." I can't solve your problems. I don't. Those are your problems, right? And then, but also what we've got, as well as the talk and exercise, and as well as the talk and listen groups, we've got Talk Club therapy now. So the idea is that if you are regularly checking in below a 5, if you are regularly a 4, and you need more help than you would get from a talking group, um, is we have now therapy. So run by therapists, six men, 8 weeks, and um, it goes around the still same rounds and positivity, but it's actually held by a therapist. They are there to actually work out how to move you forward. and I sort of describe it as sort of like the way that you have a physio at a gym. Do you know what I mean? If you get injured, or you sort of like, or you need some extra help, then then that physio's there for you, and then you go back into running, or you could do it as a, if you're going to run a marathon, you need extra training, right? It's just sort of like, quite a lot of the time, it's actually just about going like those layers of those levels of community engagement, and knowing that someone's there for you. And that's what Talk Club is. Talk Club is a massive community of men who support each other.
Yeah, and I love the like you say, the language that's been used throughout. I think it speaks to, for want of a better term, you know, how us blokes all talk to each other. You know, with the like, simple things like I was saying before. You know, just adding the out of 10, like you were talking about earlier, with like the mental health fitness, or sorry, mental fitness rather than mental health. You know, and it's all these little tweaks that make those conversations less daunting for some people who are frightened by the language. Because, like you say, it can get frightened by both sides. It could get frightened by the person who's experienced it, and the friend or relative who's trying to talk to them about it, because it's not always a nice subject to try and bring up.
No,
It can be awkward.
I mean, like for example, the blokes who run our groups are called captains, right? They're sort of like they're like because they're like, we see these groups as teams,
Mm.
and the captain is the one who's running the team. He's not the manager. He's not a facilitator. He's a captain. He's one of you guys. And and if anyone wants to be a captain, it takes an hour. It's an hour training on Zoom to start with, and then it's regular support throughout all that time. But throughout your time, and you sort of like we have monthly supervision to make sure all the captains are not too healthy, and not going through not too heavy stuff. But it's all about, all of it is all about positivity. All is it about is about being like, not being scared of looking after yourself. Like, for example, like when you see someone going for a run, you don't go, "Oh, they're unfit,"
Yeah.
right? Your automatic reaction is, "Good on them for going for a run."
Mm.
But when someone says they're going to therapy, you go, "What's wrong?" Right? And you go, my usual reaction is, "Nothing's wrong. I'm going to therapy," right? And but that's what happens. That's what's happened over these years of conditioning by society, especially when it comes to men and about talking, is that we think that we can suck it all up and get on with it. And what we're trying to do is we're going, look, invest in your mind, invest in yourself. Take some time out, look after yourself, look after your mental fitness, because like we call it airplane safety rules. If you can't, like in the film, like my mum brings it up, right? You can't, like my mum's a therapist. I didn't just have a random my mum in there, but please watch the film. But stevedocumentary.com. But but she sort of says in the film, we're about going like, look at it, the oxygen airplane safety rules. You've got to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on other people.
Yeah, I
And
thought
quite a
it was
lot
a
of the
good point your mum said there. Yeah.
yeah, and quite a lot of the time when it comes to blokes, we're normally the last man standing. The dad's normally the last man standing. The financial pressures are normally on the dad. They're sort of like the ones who look after ourselves the least, right? And I'm not saying this. Don't get me wrong. I still believe it's very, very hard to be a woman, especially in today's society. But I think that women find it a lot easier to talk about their issues, and with their friends. I think that when you go to any coffee shop in down the road from here, there'll be a group of women in there talking about what's going on for them. I actually think that when it comes to society, when it comes to mental health with women, a lot of it is about being heard by men, right? But what we're doing inside these talking groups is, a woman came up to me on the street and she sort of said to me, "You're Ben Akers, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah, what have I done?" And she goes to me, my husband comes to one of your groups. He's now listening more at home, and I never thought that we'd create something like that. I remember ringing Gav and telling him, and he was like, "It was it's such an interesting thing, because you've got this. It should be called listening club, because you're actually sitting in that thing, empathizing with other men, listening to what's going on with them, and going, and then almost intentionally or unintentionally pitting your own struggles against what's going on for everyone else." and they go, "Oh, you're going through that as well. Oh, it's not just me then.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ, you've got stuff going on far, far deeper than I have. Why am I worried about that?" Or, "Oh, so it can, so that can go better than can it?" Right? And just it's amazing just having those moments that we don't have as blokes normally. And you sit in a group and you just have these amazing connections by just blokes you would probably never in the real world um, have these deep conversations with or deep opening up with. And it's just to me, it's just like, please come to one of our clubs. It's just I'd love you to just attend one just to see what it's like. But and it's just it's just they're powerful because what you do is you just get this level of respect in a room, a level of respect that we don't normally give to other men. We try and hide it behind banter. We try and sort of like hide how we're really feeling or vulnerability. Like we've been brought up to sort of say like if we're vulnerable, then we're weak.
Yeah.
But if you reframe it as mental fitness, you go, if you're mentally fit, you're mentally strong. If you're mentally strong, then you're a better father, you're a better husband, you're a better son, you're a better you're a better boss, you're a better colleague. And that's interesting for language point of view for me, because because we know that better communication will make you and relieving what's going on for you will make you lighter, will make you stronger. So why wouldn't we be all mentally fit?
Here's the thing. I mean, like one of the phrases that I just find so toxic, and I've just clocked one of the posters behind you there where you've got "open up, not man up," and I love that, because man up is one of the most STEM states I freaking hate. Because there was definitely a time where I was talking, wasn't with my friend who took his own life, but it was another friend of ours, and we were both going through a bit of a bad patch, and we were sitting in the pub having a pint. Me and my mate Sam, we've always been pretty open with each other when we're in that sort of scenario. And we were having a private conversation. Admittedly, we're in the pub, so it's always a bad idea unless you're, well, unless you're open to criticism by people who are not quite got it yet. And someone turned to us and said, "You two need to man up." And I'm like, well, that's helpful, isn't it? But the language that you guys are now using in terms of fitness, in terms of, like we were saying earlier, you got people like, you got Tyson Fury, incredible boxer, and Liam Gallagher, who is without a doubt would be labeled as a man's man. I mean, for being a big rock star, everything he's done in his life, some of it probably he wouldn't want to mentioned in the interview, but I've been a big fan of his music for a long, long time. But the people who I guess stereotypically people wouldn't think of as weak or soft or for any of those derogatory terms, to have those people stand up and just be like, yeah, I mean, Tyson Fury's been obviously very open about his mental health and how it's affected him. And I think that having the support, and that people like Tyson Fury and Liam Gallagher siding with it, just shows that to anyone who might be thinking, because they may have been brought up in a certain way, or they might have just, societal pressures and everything, still be in that mindset of, well, I can't talk about this. They now may think, well, Jesus, he's a heavyweight champion and he had a full mental breakdown. Like, I can talk about this. And he's not bothered about, whoever he's getting in the ring with, knowing that he's had struggles with his mental fitness. So why should I be? And it's just
Yeah,
encouraging those conversations that people might be too scared to have, which I think is really, really important.
yeah. I mean, it's like we've got Troy Deeney. We did a sort of piece with Troy Deeney, and we got Troy. It's on our Instagram, and Troy's actually said that he believes that if Talk Club had existed when he was younger, he wouldn't have gone to prison. He
Really?
goes like, yeah. That's what he said. Look, check it out
I'll have to check
our
that out.
Instagram. Yeah, we're on the Talk Club charity on Instagram. But he actually sort of says that I believe that I wouldn't have gone to prison if the Talk Club had been about, because he was in such a bad place. He just needed to be heard.
Yeah.
And I think that that's quite a lot of what we find is that the community and the support that we're getting, both from men and women, is is about is about actually trying to connect and trying to be. Like you look at the biggest rates of suicide are between 45 and 55-year-old males, right? And that is in the film. Like when I talked to one of the founders of Movember,
Yeah.
He was sort of saying about the research that they got was about their social disconnect,
Mm.
and the amount of men that came up to me afterwards and goes, "I am disconnected from my friends." Like because what we did was we when we released the film in 2019, I wanted to go to where men were. I didn't want to just put it out on a streaming site, chuck it on Netflix, and then expect men to sort of come to it.
Yeah.
I did 49 screenings up and down the country before lockdown, and I went everywhere from sort of a Falmouth to Aberdeen, and I did it as a pub tour. So the idea was to sort of like go to pubs, go to where men were, get them where they're comfortable, and then get them use it as a Trojan horse to get them to open up. And then we set up a talk club in our wake, and that was the idea.
Nice.
And and it was fascinating because what happened was it sort of almost become a strategy for the way that we act on everything else, like with the alcohol free beer and everything like that. It's to be where men are, because we if we start trying to compete with the NHS, there's a lot of help out there,
Mm.
and it's not working. Right? It's not working. Men are still killing themselves. A man dies every 90 minutes by his own hand. Right? So why is it not working? It's not working because there's still too much stigma, and then we're not making it easy enough, or we're not going to them and make it easy enough. Or when they go to the GP, there's a blocker. There's not enough support inside, like the offering that the GP can give them inside antidepressants or inside therapies. So we need to start moving upstream. The government's been looking at it for years, trying to get everyone to be healthier uh, because heart disease is one of is the biggest killer. Because what you've got we're not physically looking after ourselves enough with what we eat and our exercise. So they've been concentrating on that. But since we've come out of the pandemic, this is still going up. We're at a 25-year high for suicides.
Wow.
After all the work that's been going on, we're still on the way up. Why? Right? It's because what's happening now is because we're under more pressure than we've ever have been.
Yeah.
And why are we setting up 2 to 3 clubs a week? Why have we trained over 450 captains? It's because there's so much need out there, and like we just need more people to know about us, and more men to help themselves. That's basically where we're going.
Have you noticed a real spike in them in the last sort of say 3 years between COVID?
Massive, massive. Like literally like where it came to. We're a small charity. We don't have we don't have the restrictions of big charities. The sort of like that we can be quite nimble in our ideas and the way that we move. Like for example, like talk and exercise came out of the fact that we weren't allowed to sit together during lockdown, but we were allowed to run together. So it was like, well, why don't we just do a talk and run then? Like, why don't we just do like we'll talk beforehand and then we'll run and then we'll talk at the end. So that's how it literally came about. Like Gav goes, let's just do that. Um, but I think a lot of what we're doing um, is whether we like it or not, we've all got a little bit of PTSD from the pandemic, right? It was it was this horrific thing that we were told if we breathe on people, it'll kill them,
Yeah.
and um, and then all the financial fallout and the state of the world financially and the state of the world where it is. We need some positivity. We need to connect, and I think that a lot of what's happened is that growth area. And obviously, everyone is now talking. It's quite zeitgeisty. Everyone's talking about mental health now, right?
Yeah.
But I still believe that not everyone's talking about mental health for solutions. Everyone's talking about we need to look after our mental health. How?
Yeah.
How are you suggesting we do this? How are you out of 10 allows us to do that? Um, and it's people think it's people ask it's simple, and I go, that's the point. It
Yeah.
needs to be simple. It needs to be, and that's the reason why. That's the reason why I've got uh, 18 different designs of T-shirts with every single one of them written with "How are you out of 10" on. That's the reason why we keep repeating, because if we can get this into conversation, if we can get this into the country's vernacular, where they're sort of like where they're greeting each other with "How are you?" out of 10, then suddenly it goes, "I care about you. I care about your mental state. And this is an opportunity for you to tell me that you're not doing okay." And suddenly we can get better connection and we can be more aware. We know knowledge is power. We know this, right?
Yeah.
But we've been all been living behind this sort of like this veil of 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 ego and fear. If we can actually sort of start greeting each other in that way, like how good would it be if you like you see it, you see a bloke walking down. We've all been in those offices. A bloke walking down your corridor where he's got a bad back. I had a bad back last week. I had a trapped nerve in my back,
Yeah.
and everyone's like, "Oh, are you okay?" And because it's physical, you can see it. And I was like, "Yeah, well, what are you doing here? Go home. Go and lie down. You're an idiot. You're an idiot for walking around with a bad back." How many times have we seen that in offices? But when it comes to our mental state, we don't know where everyone is. Like you can present as a 10, you can present as a 9,
Yeah.
right? But you might be a 4. Um, so actually starting those conversations, being aware, allowing people to be open with each other will only make us more aware of looking after ourselves, more importantly. Because if I say to you I'm a 5 and you'll go why, I'll go blah blah blah, and then it's like a case of okay, well, how you can look after your mental fitness? How you going to get yourself to like a 5.5 or a 6? That's how I use it. I use it in a way of almost like going, okay, I'm a 5. I'll check in on myself maybe 15 times a day. I'll go, okay, what number am I? Like I'm an 8 at the moment, but I want to sustain that 8.
Yeah.
I don't want to drop that 8. I want to keep mentally fit today. So I'm going to work on that. I'm not going to get my I'm going to make sure that my meetings are spread out. I'm going to make sure that I get out in the fresh air. I'm going to make sure that I have something decent for lunch and I switch off and I read a book at lunchtime. That's complete trash. And it's sort of like it's sort of like there's nothing to do with there's just a crime novel. It's just sort of like I have to do those things because if you don't, my brain will just fly away and fizz away.
It's
So
about
you have
grounding
to,
yourself and having that sort of mental, mental headspace, that mental time
yeah,
to other people, right?
you've got to, especially if you're working in. That's why when you said you're doing 24 hours, I'm like, my first thing was like, how are you looking after yourself? Like, because you're putting yourself into a massive thing in there. I'd really like you to be using how are you out of 10 regularly with yourself, regularly with people who are coming in to talk to you. A fantastic for talk club, but B, genuinely you'll be looking after yourself and looking after all the people who'll be helping you go for this mammoth task. Um, and I think it's sort of like I think it's that honesty thing. I always bring everything back to football. If your manager knows that you're carrying a knock, can you give me 20 minutes at the end, right? But then if you're not sort of like if you're carrying a knock and you don't tell them what's going on and you're not performing, well, you're going to get subbed, and then suddenly it's sort of like it's like you're working as a team here. Like you work as a teams everywhere with your family, with your colleagues. Like you need to be all honest about where you are, and it will
Absolutely.
make you be better. It will make you be better.
So you talked obviously about the working environment there, but also you guys have also set up your business support,
Yeah,
so the support that you offer. How have you found the uptake on that? And was that like a natural extension of the talk clubs, or was that something that someone said, well, we could do this at work? How did that come to be?
a bit of both really. Gav was sort of so Gav, as I say, Gav Thorpe's my co-CEO and co-founder, and he's a therapist. So he's sort of my I'm more of a he's obviously used to be a musician and an incredibly creative person himself, but I'm more about comms and about language. He's more about making sure that everything is safe. Um, and what we were finding was that we were asked, do we do? I keep on getting asked to do talks all the time, so I'll go into businesses to do a talk, and then it was like, well, can you do anything with businesses? And we were like, I don't know, because it's a different thing. I don't really want to just set up a talk club we'd have to do it via HR. We've got to make sure that everyone's safe and stuff like that. So we investigated it and we looked at it, and then we were finding out that people were talking about mental health first aid, and which is a great idea when it first came out, because no one was really looking at mental health first aid in the in the workplace, mental health in the workplace. So the idea of a mental health first aid is fantastic. But we sort of went, okay, well, if it's working well, who's looking after the mental health first aiders,
Yeah.
right? Right? If everyone's coming to you with your problems, that's a lot of pressure, right? So we sort of like went, okay, well, what about if we could offer something externally? If we could actually offer this thing called listening support. So we looked at it as originally it was going to be like a support thing that comes in to look after those guys, and then it was like, so well, why don't we offer one-to-one support? And then now we've taken everything that we've learned from the community and learned from the grassroots charity and put it into business. And then my take is like, we've concentrated on the 16 hours outside work. Why don't we concentrate on the 8 hours inside work? So we work with both men and women. We can do everything from one-to-one to which is like a 25 minute just listening support running through the 4 rounds. Again, really contained, but that's with a trainee therapist. We've got a massive army of them now. To running workshops about communication and about where people are and what they feel is working or not. To running groups run by one of our therapists, to talking groups, to setting up like talking exercise, talking walks and sort of stuff like that. But what's great is because it comes from external and we're a charity, the money goes back into helping people. It's gone bananas. It's gone like literally sort of. It's going like we're getting loads of people going. We want more and more of this. We're working with recruitment companies. We're working with aviation companies. We're working with insurance companies. So both on Zoom, both in person and online.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just gone sort of. It's becoming a beast on its own, but it's a fantastic way of getting to, as I say, the 8 hours of other people, of other ways of doing it. And if you look at it, you go like if you go to our business support page, got this video that sort of like talks about the amount of hours that are wasted. Like it's costing the economy billions of pounds every year in work lost hours. When you can actually, like, back to prevention about mental fitness, surely you want a mentally fit workforce.
Absolutely.
And if you can get a mentally fit workforce, then you sort of then they can they'll be less off, and you'll be producing better. So to me, it's sort of, if you just wanted to look at it as a why wouldn't you service your car? I mean, like but most of these people are McLarens. These are businesses, and they're the Formula One cars that aren't getting serviced, and they're expecting to carry on performing. So yeah, so it's going really, really well. Yeah, and people are really, so yeah. I mean, if anyone wants to get in contact on that, just email us at by the website.
Obviously, when we add the interview, mate, obviously we'll put up all your links across the social. So
That'd be amazing. Yeah, it's just been really interesting in sort of the way that that's grown, because I think we know now that to be a responsible employer, and knowing you've got to try, and when you've trained someone up and they've worked in a job, you've got to try and keep them in that job. But also it's the responsibility of a person to keep themselves mentally fit. So we're just trying to, again, back to a mentally fit society. We're trying everything that we can from we know that the statistics are 76% the males, but we also know that the stresses on workplaces, both for men and women, and the take up inside business support has been brilliant, because what happens is that if one of your colleagues is going and you're going, well, why am I not going? Yeah. You know what I mean? So there's almost this bizarre little competitiveness inside there, which is great. A great thing of looking after yourself. I'd like you to be competitive to look after yourself.
That's the kind of competition you want in work, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Who can be the most mentally fit? That's the sort of stats you want to work towards. But I was looking at, earlier this week as well. Some good friends of mine in the Karma Effect did an event streamed for you earlier this week while they were doing the hot sauces and having conversations. And I was like, that is, archetypically all us blokes at some point have tried to, be the bigger man by having the hottest curry or trying the hottest wings or whatever. I mean, I don't mind a little bit of spice, but some of those sauces I thought, not sure I fancy that one, boys, but
But this is the thing. Like like it's we've grown up with competition. We have grown up with competition, and there's something there's something internal with me. I'm not talking about anyone else. I'm just going to talk about me. That when I log my numbers, to be mentally fitter tomorrow than I was today. I want to sort of like I want to start. I'm encouraging myself to look after myself, and I think that just this positivity of moving these things forward with language is so important because you've got if I go okay, well I'm a five. I can live with why I'm a five, or I can go okay, that's an external thing that I can't control. But in reality, most of the time, even if I get into therapy or whatever, I've still got to do the work. I've got to work. If I want a six pack, I've got to work for it. I can't just buy one, right? So it's about this thing of going, well, okay, look, you need to start looking after yourself because no one else will, right? It's actually back to your body. I can buy you the trainers, I can give you the inspirational music, but I can't get you going running. You've got to do the pacing, and it's the same with our mental fitness. We've got to start looking after ourselves because it won't look after itself, and it's not anyone else's responsibility. They can help you and putting your hand in the air, going, "I need help," definitely, right? But that's the same as if you damage your leg or damage your back, you go to a specialist. You've got to start looking after yourself on like we've been taught how to lift properly for many years. It's the same as that. It's the same as that, and I think that's what we're doing is trying to sort of get to everything for, as you say about the karma effect from those guys to sort of like to to having a coffee with your mates with the Wogan Talk Club 10. It's like I'm going to try and get you anywhere I can. I'm going to get you to know about us whether you like it or not. So it's like I will force you to look after yourself. Right.
that's great, man. Ben, thanks so much for your time. But before you do go, man, I appreciate you're busy, man. So I really do appreciate your time, dude. If anyone's listening now and they're thinking, right, I'm not an 8, maybe they're a 3 or a 4 or a 5, they're in that kind of period where they might want to look how they can, as you say, go up the scale. What would you say to them?
So first of all, so like if depending on where you are in that scale, please reach out to us anyway. So talkclub.org, right? Come to one of our groups, right? And because also going like if you are regularly a 3 or regularly a 2 or regularly lower in those things, obviously that's a crisis worry. Please go to the Samaritans, right? We are built in a way of we're not a hospital, we're a gym, right? But if you want to work on your mental fitness, you want to look after yourself, you want to join a community that will support you and be there for you and help you be vulnerable and communicate better, then please join us, talkclub.org. There's a thing in there called Start Talking, and it will tell you your nearest group. If there isn't one near you, we've got loads online, so you can join one of those. Or if you want to set one up, we can set one up with you. If you want to come and just talk, or if you want to come and join one of our sports groups. But I think mainly the main thing that I want everyone to take out of this is just start talking to each other. Turn to your mate, the one you're worried about, and go, I've heard this Cockney go on about Tyson Fury, Liam Gallagher, and a beer. How are you out of 10? And then start that conversation, and then the more communication that we can get with each other, and then hopefully you'll come and join us as part of the community. But the more people who are using that and talking to each other honestly, the more mentally fit society we'll get, and the better we'll all be. So that's what I want. I want you to come and join us at Talk Club All, but I want you to say how are you out of 10 to anyone you care about.
And thank you so much for your time, mate. I really appreciate it, dude. Thank you for all the work that you and the rest of the team do. It's fantastic. And like I say, it was when I started reading up on you guys and the reasons behind you, everyone really sung to me. So I really appreciate it. And you, in your time as well. At the end of the interview, we're going to air out with a bit of Liam Gallagher with his tune they did for you, mate. So we'll air that as we play this now. But again, thanks for your time, mate.
Wicked, thank you.
Cheers, buddy.